Welcome to the Extraordinary Podcast, where we identify God's uncommon work in common life. Recognizing God's work requires intentionality, but articulating it motivates and inspires. Don't forget to subscribe to never miss an episode. In today's episode, I have a conversation with Michelle Vail and her daughter, Kierstin Boak, as they share their passions for people, coffee, and Jesus, and how those intertwine, and how they bring glory to Jesus through their passions. So let's get into the conversation with them. Michelle and Kierstin, thank you for taking time to be on our podcast today to share a little bit about your story. As we begin, could you share about your passion for coffee?
Yes. I started not liking coffee 30 years ago. But I liked the smell of coffee, so I would make a pot of coffee, and then I just thought it smelled so good, so I started drinking it, and now it's an everyday thing.
Did you have to add a lot to the coffee when you first started?
Yes, it was more of a creamer and sugar. Yes.
And I started drinking coffee by stealing her coffee, but it was too sweet for me. So I was the true coffee lover in the family. And so I tried to sneak sips while her back was turned to get the creamer from the fridge. And that didn't work out so well. It generally resulted in me being talked to. But yeah, coffee's great.
Now, in my time getting to know you, I've come to realize that you have a passion for people as well. So you have a passion for coffee, a passion for people. How do those passions overlap?
Well, for us, we're a ministry family. So my great-grandfather was in the ministry, my grandfather, my uncle, my cousin, my dad. Everybody seems to be in ministry. And so it's almost built in that you kind of have to develop a passion for people. Sink or swim, you know. And then we ended up being placed in a church that my dad was pastoring at. And they wanted to support their youth group through more than just traditional means. And so a coffee shop was started in the closet of our fellowship hall with a window to the outside where cars could drive by just like in the coffee huts and they could get their coffees on Sunday mornings. And from there it ended up growing so big that we had to knock out our secretary's office into the church foyer to build out an actual coffee shop. And so we kind of accidentally found both worlds merging, and we always knew that if the time ever came to leave, we would have to cycle back to trying to find that again because it was the most incredible experience.
So was the coffee shop open during the week as well?
Depending on the day.
Right.
And volunteers. So I was homeschooled, so a lot of the time it was me running it while the kids were in school in our community. But you were there too.
Yeah, I was.
And this started as funding for a mission trip type stuff. Is that what you said?
Youth group. So being able to feed the youth in our community and being able to take the trips down the river and to go to the water parks and to do all the fun stuff that all the bigger churches seem to be able to do without having to work hard for it. And we were always struggling on trying to figure out what next in regards to being able to raise money for them to be able to be involved.
And so that was in Oregon, that you had this where you were in church and had the coffee shop that blossomed, and really it was a passion of yours that grew into something more, essentially.
Yes. Yeah. I always wanted to open a coffee shop, probably since high school. Something that I just always wanted to do, and now here we are.
Well, that's fun. And so we are now in Iowa.
Yes.
So you moved from Oregon to Iowa about a couple years ago. What do you like about Iowa?
Everything.
I love everything about Iowa. The different seasons. The people are very friendly.
I love that I get to see the Mississippi in real life. It's one of those things I always read about but figured I'd never see. And now it's down the street.
Right.
You know, it's fun. I did not grow up in Iowa either. I grew up in Illinois, and so I've been here 4.5 years. And one of the things I think is really interesting about Iowa is the amount of state pride. That people who live here love Iowa.
Right.
That's true.
The movie Field of Dreams. It's not Iowa. It's not heaven. It's Iowa.
Yep.
So that's people believe that and have that just state pride. It's just something that I enjoy about living here. Now, right now we're in your coffee shop.
Yes.
But before that coffee shop, this coffee shop came to an existence, you had a smaller venture.
Yes.
Can you explain about that?
Well, my husband and my son had to go gluten-free earlier this year, and my first thought was, oh no, what are we doing for birthdays and holidays? Because we always made crepes. And crepes is generally a milk product, an egg product, and dairy. Or I said dairy.
Yeah.
Flour. And so we're like, well, that has to change. That has to be the very first thing that we get right moving forward into being gluten-free. And we succeeded, and we're like, oh my goodness, this is better than the crepes we've been making for over 20 years. What's wrong with this? And then we got a giant crepe pan. We're like, okay, let's see how they spin it. Let's do that. And I probably spent over 60 hours easily spinning, just learning how to spin it. Because the wooden dowel is a weird kind of T-shaped thing that you're supposed to spread the dough out with, or batter. And I'm like, okay, we have something here. And we had brought a little food cart with us from Oregon, but we didn't know why we brought it, honestly, or what we were going to do with it. And we're like, we have to do crepes. And then it was coming up with a name. And we went through a few of them. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I have to do the punny thing and call it Holy Crepe. It took my mom at least a month to be able to say it without blushing.
I can say it now.
She could say it now. Go ahead, say it.
Holy crepe.
Oh, wow.
That's good.
It's really good.
So it started because of the gluten-free. That's so, and now gluten-free is something your family has figured out, I guess, at least a little bit. Is there anything about, and you're gluten-free because of health reasons, not
Yes.
because of trendy reasons.
Correct.
And is there anything about having to be gluten-free for health reasons that people might be unaware of? Maybe some of the difficulties or the whatever.
One thing is definitely when we go out to eat, they may offer us a gluten-free bun, which is great that is even available to us at this point. But then they don't know how to answer questions if we ask, well, what's the meat marinated in? You know, did you use soy sauce? Did you use this? Did you use that? And I mean, even when we went gluten-free, I think soy sauce was one of the last things that left our house because we just kept forgetting it had gluten in it. And then we'd grab it for a recipe. We're like, oh, nope, can't use it. That one was difficult. Difficult to take bite to, but they have some pretty good alternatives now.
I just asked that because I'm sure there are a lot of things that you had to tackle that the average person, including myself, would be kind of, oh, I didn't even think of that. But like you said, not just the bread products at the restaurant, but what the meat was marinated in.
Right.
So thank you for sharing that. And so you started Holy Crepe and with a food cart in the farmer's market.
Yes.
How did that go?
Wonderful. We had lines and people waiting and wondering when we were going to get a brick and mortar. And we looked at a lot of places. We looked all over the place. The mall, the depot, everywhere. Yeah. And we settled on right down here on Jefferson. And we're very happy to be part of downtown. We really like it.
So why did you decide to be downtown here on Jefferson?
We fell in love with it when we first came here. This was one of the first places we checked out and drove around, and
the activities that are here, all the kids' events that they have. We wanted to be a part of that.
Plus, it's a 10-minute walk from my house, so that helps.
Yeah.
That is nice and convenient.
Right.
Now the farmers market, I think our downtown does a really good job with that. A lot of different places to eat. It's a fun atmosphere, and people like you are why it's fun.
I appreciate that.
Well, I'm just saying it's only if there aren't vendors.
Right.
There's
it's
nothing.
not so fun. Exactly.
Yes. And just unique stuff, local stuff as well. So that's there's a benefit to that. So you eventually, after Holy Crepe, you eventually started this coffee shop. Can you explain the name and anything about it?
I have my parents met in a mountain resort called Doyle Springs, and our favorite place to go play in the water was called First Crossing. So when you're walking down, you're going to cross it to go to all the other things to do. And so First Crossing became a love of mine, and I grew up there. And my
I
kids
loved
grew
it
up
because
there.
I only had to hike to that river, and I
Right.
didn't have to hike to the ones after.
So First Crossing just became the name here. We saw the passion for trains here in Burlington, and the Zephyr, the first train here in Burlington.
And we just were like that.
And we thought First Crossing would just be a great name.
Yeah, and in talking to people about choosing that name, we realized it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. There are people that get like a really spiritual note from it. There are people that are like, I love trains, that's fantastic. And other people that are like, we really like the bridge, and it's the First Crossing. So it really kind of means something to everyone, even if it's just a name for where to get good coffee.
Yeah, well, that's great, and it's fun that you have some nostalgic connections to the name. Now, so you've had this this coffee shop for almost a couple months now.
Yep.
With the soft opening, and can you share with us some of the hurdles that you had to get through in order to open this place, and some of the ones that maybe you still are hoping to cross?
Right.
The one we're hoping to cross eventually is getting a hood vent
Yes.
here, because of all the limitations and restrictions that come with owning a food and drink centered business, which has been an experience.
So what would a hood vent allow you to do that you can't do now?
Omelets.
Being
Meat.
able to cook meat, that's the biggest thing, is meat from scratch. My favorite thing to make is cubanos, which is a Cuban street sandwich. And my mojo pork for that takes a minimum of 2 to 3 days in multiple different marinating cycles. And then it's slow roasted in the oven. And my other favorite is my Bloody Mary pork. It's vodka, tomato juice, celery salt, all bunch of stuff thrown in a pot, and it just sits there on the stove. But we can't do that because of vapors is the reason given by the fire marshal.
Yep.
And so we have to wait till we get a hood vent before I can make meat.
Which is not a cheap endeavor. That's part of the
Correct.
issue here.
Correct.
What things can you cook?
We call it dancing in the gray. We can cook just about anything as long as it's not meat from scratch or any oil or butter based items. So we can use those like in a cake or in brownies. We cannot throw those in our crock pot as a base for our sauces or soups or anything like that.
But we do soups, we do pasta, we do our crepes, lots of different flavor crepes, sweet and savory and strange.
So outside of crepes, do you guys have a favorite?
My husband can't wait till we can make lumpia, but that's,
Yes.
again, meat, isn't that?
But the French onion soup, I turned into a pasta, and so that was
Oh gosh,
probably
that
my
was good.
favorite. Yeah.
That was really good.
Yeah.
So what were some of the hurdles that you had to cross to actually open?
One was getting in the space. We had our number given to the owner several times, but he's very with the wind kind of person. And now that we're finally with him, we're like, oh my gosh, we understand what everyone was saying, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But trying to get a hold of him when he doesn't want his number given directly, we're like, okay, how's this working? And then I just drove by one day and I was looking at it and praying over it. And I'm like, this is where I see us. This is where we want to be. And I see some workers inside, and I just decided to go up and say, hey, how's it going? He was one of the workers that day. And he said, well, there's only one other person looking at it, so I'll let you know. And it was only the next week that we were signing papers.
And then we
So-
tore everything out.
Everything. Absolutely
We
everything.
redid the floors.
It hadn't been touched in over
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah.
So for about a month or two, you guys were working yourself.
Straight month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's.
Straight month. Yep. That was, oh my gosh.
Our
So
families
much
are very
work.
supportive. We're very fortunate to have a supportive family. So it's
Yep,
been
both our
nice.
husbands came in and sanded down the floor for us, so we didn't have to do that part. I did have to do the 4 hours of scrubbing after that to get all the sawdust out of here. But it's been fun, even with the hurdles. It's something we wanted to do for so long that it's like, yeah, they were there, But it was almost like we were in that track event where they just jump over them. Like, oh yeah, they're just kind of interrupting my run. I'm really enjoying the race.
And we love now being a blessing, to so many people, and we're just really excited for everything here.
So what you said you're excited about being a blessing to people. What do you love about having, besides being out of the elements, right? And having a consistent place. What do you love about having a brick and mortar coffee shop?
We have time to talk to people.
Yes.
The food cart is very, very fast paced. There is no room for talking, hardly at all.
Right.
There's enough to go, thank you for your order, here's this next.
And now we can pull up a chair. We can get to know people. We have a guest book for people who are out of town. And so, that's just so fun. Keeping track of all that.
But also being the first gluten-free place and an entire quadrant of a state, not just a city. Although overwhelming, I think that's mainly what she means by being able to be a blessing in that way, because we have people coming in here that have been gluten-free for 20 years and saying, this is the first time I've been able to go eat at a restaurant. And that's huge. We don't think about that. Even when my husband and kid did go gluten-free, it didn't stop us from trying to eat out.
Right.
But they also aren't celiac.
My favorite memory was a 7-year-old that came in and just said, Mom, I can have anything on the menu? Mm-hmm. And she said yes. And his eyes, it was almost like he was
You're mixing up. Too. You started saying she.
The 7-year-old.
And then you started saying he. There were two different kids, back-to-back days. So,
right.
So there were two kids that went through the same process.
They were just so
amazed.
Excited that they were able to eat anything on the menu, that they didn't have to pick and choose. They didn't have to get something special or something different from their family, or salad.
Or salad. Yeah. We ordered a lot of salads.
Yeah.
If people ask us, they're like, why don't you guys do salads here? Because that's what people can get anywhere. That's generally their only option. We don't have a whole lot of interest in doing salads, maybe in the summer.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things we've talked about is you have a passion for coffee, you have a passion for people.
Yes.
And we've talked about you have church background, but part of it, you have a passion for Jesus as well.
Yes.
And so you're not just trying to be nice, you're trying to pack people for Jesus.
Yeah.
100%.
And is there any way you feel like you've been able to do that so far?
We're amazed at the amount of fellow Christians that come in the door. Partially, we had one lady come in. Her name is PJ, and she had actually written her own worship song and actually sang it for us here in the shop. And we had customers coming in behind her, and they weren't Christian, but they still couldn't help themselves but smile. They were just smiling. They're like, whoa, what did we just walk into here? And it's just been amazing. People feel comfortable here.
Right.
They want to be here. They want to bring their friends and family here. And honestly, we believe the first step in showing people Jesus' love is just being authentic and real and kind. And from there, who knows where it goes. Yeah. We believe the opportunity eventually will present itself. But in the meantime, just being able to cultivate the community here is incredible.
And that's great. And right now we're at a table that has a checkered chessboard.
Yes.
There's Connect Four. There's a board game back there. There's other things for people just to have. Ping pong.
Yes, we do.
Our cafeteria table over there has a ping pong setup.
It's not just a cold environment that people can just come buy something. They can come and have.
I mean, technically they could.
Well,
I'm not going to hold it against them.
Yeah, but you can think of other restaurants and establishments that you kind of. Mainly the chain ones is what I'm thinking. But you go, you get your drink. There's a place to sit. Yeah. But it's really just a table and chair.
Right. Oh, we've had kids sprawled out on the floor with board games. We've had people playing with decks of cards. We play ping pong when nobody's in here. Yes, but also moms just knowing that their kids can go run in the back, and if they hear a crash, it's okay because it's meant for kids, and it's totally fine.
And they see us relaxed. And so they know that they can relax.
Yeah. And that's important. Her being a mom and grandma and me being a mom, that's something we just really don't like when we go someplace and we're on edge and we're all tight and we're like, oh my gosh, my kid's going to touch something. And here they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Now we are at 314 Jefferson Street.
Yes.
Right, so downtown Burlington, and I'll make sure in the show notes I can link to any social media or anything that you guys have. So if people want more information, they can do that. They can Google First Crossing,
Absolutely.
and that's probably the easiest way.
Right.
But any other way that people can connect with you guys? Because your hours are still changing a little bit, aren't they?
Yeah, they
They
tend
are.
to be Monday through Thursday, 7 to 5. And Friday, Saturday, 7 to 7. Sunday, we're kind of looking at changing things up a little bit, simply because there's been a demand for a lunch crowd. And so, which we can't blame them. What do we usually do
They
after
want
church?
a place to relax
Go
after
to eat.
church.
Yeah.
So this might be the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but I mentioned that because if people want to confirm your hours,
Yes.
Online is probably the best way for
Online
you
is
to
the
do
best
that.
place. Yeah.
Yep, we always do
There
a
is.
pinned post if our Sunday hours are, like when my sister comes and does massage pop-ups, we'll go, hey, she's here, and this Sunday on this date, the hours are going to be different. And it'll be a pinned post, it'll be on the top of the Facebook page and the top of the Instagram page. And then message us. Call us. If you don't see our number online, message us for our number. We'll give it to you. It's on all our cards.
Right.
Yeah. And when people come in, they want to make sure they get one of your business cards. It's also a punch card
It
Correct.
is.
to help get free rewards after they come.
Yep.
Yes, indeed.
But
Yeah, there's 9 windows in the train on the picture. When they're all punched out, you get a free coffee.
And you also get to join our Wall of Fame over here.
Oh.
You could actually sign your card and pin it up to the
Nice.
wall. We have 4 of them so far. 2 girls, 2 guys. We're waiting for the tiebreaker.
Well, I appreciate you taking time today to share a little bit about your passion and how you're serving the community in the name of Jesus within your passions. Because sometimes I think we try to serve, fill holes instead of serving our passions. And so it's tiring work, I'm sure,
Yeah.
but it's also exhilarating work
It is.
because
It is.
you love the work that you do. It's exhausting. We still need rest. I'm not saying anything about that. But just thank you for taking time today to share with us your passions. And I'll make sure to link to any of your social media and website or anything like that in the
Yeah.
show notes. So if people want to connect with you further, they can. So thank you for being here today.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you so much.
And hey, if anyone wants to do a Bible study, that's what the cafeteria table's for.
Yes.
We've had several.
Well, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this podcast. Be on the lookout for how God does uncommon work in common life. And please subscribe to never miss an episode.